Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today I want to showcase Radiance Films. So Radiance Films is actually a UK-based boutique Blu-ray company that is pretty recent and new to the space. Actually, they started off with their first two releases, starting off in January, and they've actually been putting out two releases each month since. So there's actually 8 films I want to talk about today with you, but it is April, so it is a fine amount of time to have some of these releases come out, and you have access to these if you're in the UK. Of course, Radiance Films has their own website, and I'm sure there's other distributors as well. And in the US, there's actually MVD and other boutique sources like Orbit DVD or Diabolique DVD that will have these, and I'll be linking them in the description down below. So if you are curious about these films, I highly encourage you to check these ones out, and these are amazing releases. But in this video, I wanted to do something really special. I wanted to talk about the 8 films that I have seen so far, and these are all first-time watches. But I wanted to do something where I was looking at all these titles and like, what can I do? And I thought about, like, you know what? Let me just rank them from my least favorite to my favorite. But at the same time, each one of these films has brought something to light to me, and is something I enjoy about each of them. And I'll talk about each of those as we go through this list. And so some of my choices might be a little bit controversial if you have seen some of these titles, but if you haven't, I highly encourage you checking out these titles. But it is April 2023, so there are two releases right here, which we will talk about here in a bit. We have The Sunday Woman, which just got released here in at least the States, and then also in the UK, and The Man on the Roof right here. Both two fantastic crime films, and I'll talk about them both as we go through our ranking. All right, so before we jump into the ranking, I just wanted to give a little preface. I love all these movies. These were all really fantastic. I'd only say one was something that just wasn't my cup of tea, but I just wanted to let you know that, like, these are some great releases, and the level of care in each of these is actually kind of top notch, and that's what I love about them. But I want to showcase that in a way. But anyway, before I jump into this ranking, I want to know what are some of the films that you have seen from Radiance Films, and also what are some of your favorites? Tell me down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your ranking of these particular discs. All right, so for the film that impressed me probably the least is a film from 1968. It is 69 minutes. It is Spy Number 8. Yes, it's spy numbered. I'm talking about A Woman Kills by Jean-Denis Bonin right there. So this came out in 1968, France, very political time around the world, honestly. But this really centers around a group of murders that keep happening. A prostitute is these prostitutes keep getting killed, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. So it's really actually more of a psychological deep dive into what the killer is going through, and then what we're witnessing at the same time. It's very got a very sultry jazz score that I really enjoy about it, but it's very manic, and it definitely feels like the subject material that it is conveying, but also in a very socio-political sense. But it's one that just didn't really speak to me as much as I wanted it to. But a lot of really great special features on this one. Of course, this is the 2K restoration. Has an introduction by Selve, and then it has a bunch of other special edition special features, where it actually has a bunch of short films from Bonin. A lot of some student short films and films that came out before this, and really just kind of showcasing the diversity that this director has really put forth. And so it's a really cool release, and I think this has a bunch of film releases here. But the cool thing about Radiance is it has this little slip thing right here that you can take out if you want to, of course, and you can see the whole art, which is even cooler. I like the corners. So, but it gives you that little slip, and this is the limited edition of it. So you get the Blu-ray itself, and you get a booklet, and this booklet is pretty thick. So if you like Indicator, this is kind of what that is like. So this is like a 50-page book right here, yeah. So A Woman Kills. It's at the bottom of the list, but it's definitely worth your time to watch. So let's actually move on to the next film. All right, so next we're going to talk about another film from 1968. This time we're going to go over to Japan, and we're going to talk about a Yakuza Mafia film with Big Time Gambling Boss. So this is actually one of the first films from Radiance. This is among the January releases, but it is Spy Number 12. It's directed by Kasaku Yamashita, and it is actually starring this man right here. If you are familiar with him, he is in the Lone Wolf and Cub series. And that guy is Thomas Tomasabaru Wakayama. I can never say his name right, but this is about a mob boss who is dying and is trying to get a new successor, and it really is about the subordinates kind of going at each other's throats. But we're following him as we try to get through this process, this gang warfare. But it's written actually by the writer who wrote a lot of the Battles for Honors and Humanity, which is right to the right of me, if you can see that off screen. But yeah, there's a lot of really interesting things here. I'm actually pretty new to Yakuza films, which is why it's so kind of low on this list. It was a great time. I really loved the ending of this film. This is like one of my favorite endings in all the films I want to talk about today. But I really enjoyed this release. And once again, showcasing the special features here. Of course, it has that card that you can slip out. It has the booklet and the Blu-ray release. And then it has a really cool original poster art, which I love. Love, love, love. Kind of showcasing some parts of the end. Man, the end is so much fun. Really, if you want to check this one out, I highly recommend it. This is the start of like my love of these films. So, Big Time Gambling Boss. I wish it was a little bit higher, but I need to spend more time with it myself. All right, so next we're going to move to an April release, one that we just talked about, and is one that I need to spend a little bit more time with as well, but it is a Swedish film from 1976, and I'm talking about The Man on the Roof by Bo Widerberg. I hope I'm saying it correctly. It's a Swedish film. It's a Swedish crime film, and it feels like an American film of sorts. It's actually based on a Swedish book series that goes on that happened in the 1960s, I believe. And this is an adaptation of it, and this is actually one of the closest adaptations I've heard from these releases. There's actually a lot of special features on here, kind of just explaining the trajectory and the making of this film. So there's a lot of really great things in here, and I love the specific style that the Swedish cinema is dealing with this at this time, because obviously they're writing the curtails of Ingmar Bergman, of course, and in the 70s he went a little bit more experimental with his films and was like outcast as well, never really accepted in Sweden. But this film in particular, right, is one that, like I said earlier, it is trying to almost like be a Swedish film that has its identity, but also feels a little bit like an American film, at least in the bombastic nature of a lot of the set pieces. There's a helicopter scene in here that is just unforgettable. And honestly, the film kind of aimlessly, in a really interesting way, go about with this plot. It's almost like trotting along as you're trying to figure out why these cops are being killed and being targeted by this man, who is on the roof, of course. Yeah, it leads to a really climactic battle that lasts in the last like 40 minutes of the movie that really just like come to a head and makes it really, really fascinating. But I love the little simplicities that are happening in this movie. Like it's the daily lives that really are really interesting. There's a lot of really good dialogue in this film. But anyway, yeah, it's on this list. It's really good. I loved reading the extra content in this booklet, reading about kind of what this film and the adaptation of the book came about and how it really succeeded. This is considered a classic in Sweden now. So very excited that they put this out, and yeah, it is number 6 on my list. All right, so next we're going to move to an American film from 1995. This is Spine Number 3. It's one of the early things that I picked up. It is Welcome to the Dollhouse. And man, this is a fun film. This is directed by Ton Solondz, and it is a coming-of-age film about Don Wiener Dog Wiener. I love it right there. Who is played by Heather Matazzaro, and yeah, she's in Scream as well. But anywho, this is a film about her lack of acceptance in school, of course, and all the people and social outcasts that happens. There's a lot of really crazy things that happen in this film that almost feel like a little bit taboo. If you're thinking about something like Stand By Me or something along those lines where you're getting that coming of age story, think again. There are some of those elements in here, but you can see how cruel kids can be to each other and the things that they do to each other. And there's actually some pretty crazy and insensitive things that are happening in this film, but it weirdly feels I'm trying to tread water here, but it weirdly feels apt for the story that's being told. And there's a lot of special features with Heather talking about her time on the film, what it meant to her. But despite its dark and light kind of balance that it's going for, it is quite a good time. There is the booklet right there, and there is the disc. Comes with a bunch of special features as well, like I was saying, talking about the film. Todd also has a special features kind of revisiting this piece and being one of the highlights of the 90s. So it really definitely feels like an aesthetic piece from this time period, and I highly recommend it. That's why it's on this list. And but yeah, it's a really great film. It's really fun, but like I said, it has its darker moments, so definitely watch out for those. All right, so next we're going to move on to the other April release from 1975, straight from Italy. We're talking about The Sunday Woman. Wow, this movie is a lot of fun. Think Rules of the Game mixed with a Giallo. And that's what you get with The Sunday Woman. There's so many crazy influences, and I love the cultural aspect of this. There's a lot of socio-political stuff going on in here as well. Just like with The Man on the Roof, there's a really cool kind of cross between this month's themes. But it is a crime film, right? There's some things going on in the background. There's been a grisly murder that happens, and we're just trying to figure out what the heck is going on this film, and it really kind of critiques the high society. That's where I get the Rules of the Game kind of bit going on. I really love the locales and atmosphere that this has in the background, and just the interactions between the characters in here. It's very playful, almost feels like an Agatha Christie type of film as well. I know I'm throwing a bunch of mishmashes, but that's just how it all played out in my mind. But it was such a fun film. That's why it's so far into this release. But of course, it has that right there. The booklet is out because I was reading it. But yeah, you can see the back. If you reverse the cover, you can see the description and the special features on there. But man, really fun film. Definitely in my top 4. This is like right at the edge of 4. But man, so much fun. And if you're gonna pick up something this month, definitely pick up The Sunday Woman. It is such a fun time. All right, so next we are going to the top 3, the films that I liked the most out of Radiance so far. And the first I want to talk about is another American film from 1990, directed by George Armitage. It is Miami Blues right here. This is my number 5. It has Fred Ward, Alec Baldwin, and Jennifer Jason Leigh, and these are some of the biggest names, at least in the Hollywood sense, that a lot of people will probably recognize. But yeah, this film is as bright and as beautiful as this film is. It is also very difficult, very much like I was talking about with Welcome to the Dollhouse. There are some pretty interesting things that happen in this film, and it definitely feels like this really interesting neo-noir that happens around this time period. You think of things like True Romance in the late 80s, and think of Tarantino films. I mean, there was a lot of little back and forth, and even think of something like Jonathan Demme with Something Wild. That's actually what the curtails of this was, where George Armitage kind of got involved, and so did of course Alec Baldwin. And Alec Baldwin was really a great lead at this time, because he had played some really great characters and various other things. But anywho, this is a great film. It's about a guy, a con man, who got out of prison and really just starts some more shit. Takes a cop's badge. Fred Ward takes his teeth. It's very fun. It's really comedic, but it's really sad and it's really tragic, because you see a young Jennifer Jason Leigh kind of being led around by our main character right here, Alec Baldwin, who is a piece of shit, kind of. So anyway, I love this film, and I love the blue and the pink right there, and there is the booklet and the movie itself. Tons of special features. Once again, I don't think I've listed any of the special features because I just didn't want to read those to you. I just wanted to kind of showcase this. But yeah, wow. The amount of stuff that's being stuffed into these releases is insane. The booklet and just the making of these things, the interviews with the cast and characters, cast and crew, and people who are involved with it, critics as well. There's a lot to offer with these films. So Miami Blues, number 3. Let's go on to number 2 and number 1. All right, so number 2 is objectively, I would say, the best film that has been released from Radiance, but it's not my favorite. And that is number 1. Spy number 1, The Working Class Goes to Heaven. This movie is insanely phenomenal. Elio Petri, who, if you know Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion, things like that, you'll know that name. Another Italian film, this one from 1971. Wow. This is starring, I can never say his name, is Gian Maria Volante, who is our main character who works at a factory, and just kind of going through I mean, if you know anything about a factory, it's, production, repeat, sleep, go to sleep, work, wake up, work, go to sleep, wake up, work, etc. There's also some sexual aspects in here too, or sexual frustration that is happening with this as well. I love the dynamic here of work and sex life, and the lack of energy, and where you put your energy. There's a really cool connection here. But anyway, this is a really phenomenal film. Of course, it's a very political film as well, talking about workers' rights, talking about a lot of early 1970s Italian life, because this is post World War II. Italy is trying to find its identity again after that, and it's taken a while. So of course we're getting automation and a lot of industrial things happening in the background, and it's just a really great character study of somebody who's also not so great to watch. That's the theme of a lot of these films, is our main characters are people you don't really love. There's very few people that you enjoy spending time with, which is really crazy. But I think that's what makes these films so special, is that you can see the humanity within them. And I think that's why I like them so much. But anyway, let's showcase some of these things right here. Of course, there's that, and the booklet itself, and the reversible cover. Phenomenal film. Holy shit. This is like, if you're going to pick up any of them, this is one that I highly recommend people check out. So number one, Spy number one, right? But my number one film in this entire thing is one that not everyone's going to say. It's a French film from 1976. It is a road movie of sorts. It is Fill Her Up with Super. And man, oh man, I love this movie. This is just about a bunch of dudes going on a car ride. One of them has a job trying to move this car to his rich client that he's working with. But it really is just it's a road movie about a bunch of dudes, interacting with each other, and really just kind of spending time with each other when they haven't really been able to spend time with each other, because they've all been doing different things. A lot of them have women issues, or like they just haven't had a stable relationship. One of them is married, has a kid, and he feels really tethered to that and really can't relate to the other ones. But just the amount of interesting conversations that they have, it really is just like watching these guys, like it's just a camera in a car, going back and forth between their interactions, talking about who knows what. There's so much crazy shit going on in here about sex, desire, love, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a friend. There's just so much things that I love about this film. It's one that just like really just threw me out the window of sorts. It just floored me, right? That's the reason why I loved it so much, is I just loved the interactions between each of the characters in here. But yeah, this film is amazing, and if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. Elaine Cavalier is the director right there. There's a lot of really great releases in that as well, of course, and there's a film of them and on their coats being hung up right there as they put themselves there. But man, oh man, this film is so much fun. Le Plein de Super. Right there is the title. And of course, I didn't really go into the details of all these films. I just wanted to showcase kind of a little bit of a ranking for these films that have come out. So with that being said, that is what I've been watching with Radiance Films. I'm just so excited to be seeing what they're going to do next. When I talk about more Radiance Films in the future, I definitely want to cover different aspects of it. I just wanted to kind of catch up and make a video where I talk about each one of the releases and like my thoughts on them. But I'm sure you have different thoughts yourself. I would love to know what you think of Radiance Films so far, and also let me know what some of your favorite films in in these releases are so far. Just let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But anyway, I want to say thank you so much for checking this out. If you're interested in Radiance Films, check out the links in the description if you want to check them out and read more about it, watch trailers, and you can buy them there too. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a like, comment down below, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I will see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.